Hello, everyone. Welcome to Venture Matters TV. I'm Xiaochun from 36KR Chuhai, your host for today's session. So for those who are not familiar with Venture Matters TV, let me do a brief introduction. KR Asia and 36KR Chuhai launched Venture Matters TV to shed light on market trends in emerging markets. It's a series of live streaming dialogues with top VC investors around the world. So we aim to deliver actionable insights to startup entrepreneurs, especially those in Southeast Asia and China. So you can find the video of our previous episodes on KR Asia website and 36KR Chuhai's WeChat account. So in today's session, we are very happy to have a great guest with us. He's no stranger to both the Southeast Asian and Chinese startup community. So please welcome Dr. Finian Tan, founder and chairman of Vickers Venture Partners. Hi, Dr. Finian. Hi.
Hi, Xiaochun. Thank you for having me.
Great, thanks. So before starting Vickers, Dr. Finian was a managing director at Draper Fisher Jurvetson, acting as the founding partner of its Asia Pacific operations. So one of his tremendous bets was the investment into Baidu and remained its largest backer until IPO. So Dr. Finian, maybe let's start with a brief introduction of yourself and Vickers.
Oh, okay. I think a good place to start would be how I got into venture capital. Basically, I was with Goldman Sachs in New York, running the trading operations for Asia, and didn't make sense to run it from New York. So I came back to Asia. And as soon as I reached Singapore, I was approached to serve in the administration of the Singapore government as a deputy secretary of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. So it was an opportunity to serve my country. I was a young man then, of 34 years old. So I decided to become a deputy secretary, and part of my role was to help make Singapore into a Silicon Valley for Asia.
Okay.
Singapore has a high per capita income, so it was natural for her to choose to grow by innovation and entrepreneurship. So I made 3 recommendations. One was the setting up of a science hub, physical science hub, where people can live, work, play, study. The second was the setting up of an inter-ministry committee to change rules and regulations so that startups can thrive. And the third was the setting up of a $1 billion venture capital fund to jumpstart venture capital. So Cabinet approved all 3 and made me the chairman of all 3, and that started my life in venture.
Okay.
I decided that this was something I was very interested in because venture is really a mix of tech and finance. I was already finance trained at Goldman, and I also did a PhD in engineering at Cambridge University. So it was a nice combination of the 2, tech and finance. So I decided to be a VC, and I joined Draper Fisher Jurvetson ePlanet Ventures as their founding partner, as you mentioned. And my first investment was a small company at that time called Baidu, which we took a very large stake in.
I see. So so when you were with Draper Fisher Jurvetson, you led the investment to Baidu, like you mentioned. So can you tell us a little bit more about the investment, like who did the pitch and what did you see in Baidu by then?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it was the year 2000, and we were a little bit confused because the year 2000, if you remember, maybe you're too young, but it was a crazy time. Anything that had .com or www in front of it would shoot to the skies, even though there was no business model. So it was a difficult time. I decided to draw a line in my book in the middle. And on the left, I put what I knew for sure, and on the right, what I didn't know. So I filled up what I didn't know first, all the business models of Amazon, Alibaba, AskJeev, InfoSeek, InfoSpace, Inktomi, a lot of companies that I was still a little confused about. And on the left, I put what I knew for sure. And there were only 2. China will surely grow, and the internet will surely grow. So I asked myself, what can I invest in that will surely make money if these 2 things happen? And I decided that it was the operating system of the internet in China. So what's the operating system of the internet? I wasn't sure, but we thought it might be search because every time when you enter the internet, the first thing you do is search.
Mm.
So we search around for all the search companies that was within the DFJ system, those that missed the DFJ system, and we talked to all the incumbents and competitors. And Baidu became the top few that had a new architecture, and it was almost 10 times better. It's very objective because search is speed and relevance, so you can measure it.
Sure.
And we then decided to do Baidu, and in the year 2000 we only made a single investment, and that was Baidu. Became our largest investment and most successful.
I see. So I think a lot of our Chinese audience will also be interested, like how do you see Baidu's current performance? Like the internet landscape in China has significantly changed.
Well, they continue to be number one in search. I don't think there's any doubt there. I think the biggest question is whether they can move into the next Web 3.0 as effectively as they have controlled Web 1.0 and Web 2.0. And I don't think the market is clear about their direction. They've succeeded in many things, and they've not succeeded in some of the things as well. So the next wave of growth is artificial intelligence. They certainly have the data, and if you have the data and you have the talent, it could lead to much success. So I'm hopeful.
I see. Great. So I think there's some hesitation for some global investors to invest into Chinese startups, partly because the market is so big and there's always the question of where to start. So how did you manage to navigate that process of starting to invest into Chinese market?
When we went in the year 2000, Sina had already listed in the New York, in NASDAQ. So because of that, Sina set, I guess, the path for everybody to follow, the VIE structure. And it's been carrying on that way until now. So I guess for us, we were a follower. We were not the first, but there were not many at that time. So in the year 2005, when Baidu listed, Baidu actually had the best performing first day performance in the history of NASDAQ, which a record which they still hold today.
I see. Great. So, so you mean the way of navigating the process of starting into Chinese startup is to like learn the market first and try to talk to people?
There are three things that you need to do to invest anywhere. You need a good deal flow. You need a good filter. And number three, you must be able to help the companies grow. So in the case of Baidu, we already had quite a lot of deal flow because we had an office in Shanghai and then later Beijing. So there was enough deal flow. And secondly, the filter, at that time, we had a crystal ball, and the crystal ball was the US. What had succeeded in the US would probably replicate in China. Now it's slightly different. It's not exactly the same, but you still take a lot of forward thinking and ideas from the US. For example, Uber resulted in Didi, etc. But China is also leading the way in some, like WeChat is quite different from WhatsApp. So I think it's starting to diverge a little, and China is its own universe. It's big enough. But there are still some commonalities. So it's good to be a global fund. Vickers is now a global fund. We have 7 locations, New York, San Francisco, Palo Alto, London, Singapore, Hong Kong, Shanghai. And I think being a global fund allows us to keep in touch with everything that's going on in the world and having a good filter to pick the best.
So if you look at some numbers, so Vickers is one of the best performing funds globally. So I think a lot of people would like to know, so what is the secret to maintaining a good return on investment? Is the elite team the key? Because I know most of the investors at Vickers are doctors in engineering, biotechnology, nanotechnology, or artificial intelligence like yourself. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think that's because we have become a very deep technology firm. We didn't start off that way. When we started, we were kind of a generalist fund like anybody else. We invested in technology across the board, meaning we invest in game companies, e-commerce companies, sharing economy. Um, we invest in sort of logistics. We would invest in anything that assists like fintech and other supporting industries to e-commerce, and then also deep tech.
Mm.
But over the years, we realized that risk can be split into three. One is technology, will it work? IP, are you in the lead? Do you own the tech? And three, the demand. Is the demand there, or do you have to grow it slowly?
Mm.
We decided not to take three risks. We decided just to take one risk about 8 years ago, and since then, and that's the technology end. And as a result, we have become a deep tech firm. We try not to take any demand risk. So if you came up with a new game, for example, we are not the right VC for you because we can't guess the demand of your new game. Or if you came up with some new technology for which the world has never shown a need yet, but you guess there will be a need, then it would be too early for us because we don't like to take demand risk. We also don't take IP risk, but we're happy to take technology risk. Will it work? So as a result, we basically don't have market risk. So people might ask, what type of businesses don't have market risk? Because everything has market risk. So let me give you a few examples. If you had a cure for cancer, there is no market risk. The demand is known. The prevalence is known. The incidence rate is known. The mortality, morbidity, everything is known for each and every cancer. However, will the drug be approved by the FDA? That's a big question. And that's a tech risk. And if we have a lot of PhDs and people with advanced degrees, we will have a better assessment of whether the technology will work than most normal average laymen. So as a result, we mitigate the risk with expertise, and we don't take unknown risk, which is demand.
I see.
So since we did that, our performance has changed. Our failure rate has dropped. The average failure rate in the industry is about 60%. We used to be about 34%, which was pretty good, but now it's 6%. Yeah, and our home run return pool used to be, the average is about 15% in the industry. Ours used to be about 28%. Now it's more than 50%. So when you improve your home run hits and you reduce your strikes, your failures, then you get better performance. So we've been slowly climbing through the ranks, and hopefully we can continue to climb.
That's very interesting. So, so maybe tell us a little bit more about the sixth fund. I read on the news you have received commitment totaling 200 million so far, and the target is to raise 500 million, right? So what kind of companies and entrepreneurs are you looking for this time?
Okay, we've made 14 investments. They're almost all in very deep tech spaces, all across the world. In China, we have an investment in a company called Simo. Simo is a SIM-less technology for laptops and for any device, like even mobile phones, to allow you to roam, to allow you to basically have a Wi-Fi device using your phone. It allows your iPad to connect without any SIM card. That's based in Shenzhen. So we are quite happy with that company and continue to back it. We have about half our investments are in the biotech space. They are based in London and the US. So we have a company called Samomed, which is actually doing a pre-IPO round now. They are already valued at about 12 billion. They have 15 diseases in human clinical trials, 7 distinct molecules. 8 of the diseases are in the oncology space, cancer. They also have osteoarthritis. They have tendinitis. they have idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, they have alopecia, they even have a skin product for wrinkles. So that's very exciting. Then we have I guess, a company that is the talk of the current space, which is the pandemic. We have a COVID-19 vaccine that is being developed in the UK, which we think is very unique, very unique.
I see. So the portfolio which is doing the COVID-19 vaccine is EmergeX, right?
Correct.
How is it going? I think everyone wants to know how's the vaccine going.
Well, the unique thing about EmergeX is we are the only T-cell focused vaccine. Everybody else is focused on antibodies. And I don't know if you remember the immune system that you studied in biology, but basically the adaptive immune system has two parts, antibodies and T-cells. Antibodies are the first barrier. Antibodies bind with the virus and neutralize them before they infect the cell. But once they infect cells, our own cells like lung cells, etc., T-cells attack them and destroy them. So basic immune system has two parts to it, both antibodies and T-cells. And most vaccines of the past, they used to imbue both reactions, both antibodies and T-cells. But nowadays, we no longer can do live attenuated viruses, which got both systems working. The new, quicker time to market vaccines are synthetics. And they are normally inactivated virus, or they are put on a carrier like an adenovirus, like the company called Oxford Jenner and AstraZeneca that recently announced that they have restarted the vaccine trial. And then you have mRNA. But all of these are focused on the surface proteins of the virus, which means they are trying to elicit an antibody response. We are the first and only T-cell focused vaccine company. So what we do is we don't try to replicate the virus, we replicate infected cells so that T-cell infected cells to destroy them. So it's a big difference. Other people copy the virus, we copy infected cells, and infected cells look different from the virus. So as a result, the whole approach is different.
Yeah. So that is a tech risk you would like to take, right?
Yes, because we believe that T cells are much longer lasting. They last decades instead of weeks. Antibodies tend to wane and reduce in power. In fact, the flu vaccine wanes 16% every month. So we believe that the T-cell approach is the right one for long-term immunity and for the prevention of ineffectiveness if there is mutation. Because infected cells don't change so much, but the virus might mutate, especially on the surface.
Sure.
So we're very excited about this. We expect to have a good readout sometime in December or Jan. And if so, there is good hope that this whole thing will be solved within a year from then.
I also hope so. Okay, great. So my next question is, in 2020, this year, after what happened to WeWork and also maybe Luckin, people talk more about long-term value in China and around the world rather than short-term opportunities, maybe like back sharing, for example. So to have a clear view on the long-term value, we all need to think about the future. Like we need to know what will remain important in the next 10 or 20 years. So many of the deep tech and medtech companies you invest in also relate to future trends like longer lifespan. So what is your way of imagining the future, and how do you find long-term value? Like how do you define long-term value?
I think at the end of the day, people invest because they are trying to make money.
Sure.
And they cannot make money from money-losing companies.
Sure.
So long-term value can only come from companies that will eventually be profitable. So what you call path to profitability. So if a company does not have a clear path to profitability, then that's not a company that we will invest in, and that's not a company that can ever make money for anyone.
Sure.
So the key is a clear path to profitability. It's okay that maybe they may be losing money today, but there must be a clear path. So the gross margins must be improving over time, and you can see when they will start to make money. So the unit cost is very important. I'll give you an example. Let's say you are selling lemon juice, and it costs you $1 for the raw materials, and you sell it for 50 cents.
Doesn't make
Okay,
sense.
then you raise a lot of money and your revenue grows, and you raise more money and the revenue grows. But every time you sell one glass, you lose 50 cents, and the more glasses you sell, the more you lose. That company has no path to profitability. If, for example, the cost is $1, you sell it for $2, but you spend $1.50 on marketing. So you lose 50 cents every time you sell a glass. But eventually you can reduce your marketing when people know more and more. And soon you have no marketing at all, and word of mouth, and everybody comes, and your margin is $1. That company has a path to profitability. Both these companies lose 50 cents per glass initially, but one of them will lose forever, and the other one will lose for a while and then start to make money. So the second company has a path to profitability, and those are kinds of companies that will have long-term future. I hope I explained that clearly.
Clearly. So I think sometimes it's quite hard for founders to balance, like, I need to think about cash flow and long-term goal. So how should entrepreneurs like think about the future and stick to the long-term value? How would you advise them?
I mean, at the moment in time, it's not so easy to raise money for early stage startups. But for later stage startups, capital is quite available. For example, Grab has just announced that they might be raising $4 billion. So it's funny, there's 4 billion available, but there isn't 4 million available for young startups who are looking for money. And the reason is because perceived risks. Big boys don't like risk. And so they invest in later stage companies, and the early stage companies generally find it difficult to raise money. So what should companies do? I think it's difficult to start without capital, and the general trend is for people to go to angels, family, savings, to bootstrap initially, and then eventually get some VC to start Series A. If you can't raise capital, then it's very hard to continue. But once you start raising capital, it's a fine balance between wanting to be prudent and growing slowly, or being a bit more aggressive and growing quickly. And the key difference or the key decision point comes from this fact. Are you confident to raise a second round? If you are confident that you can raise a second round because of a very good VC that supports you, or because you're in such a hot space, if you are confident, you can be a bit more aggressive. If you are not, then preserve capital. Because all companies die because of lack of money. So the decision on how you spend the money is probably the single most important decision for a startup.
Yeah, that's very true. So I think the pandemic, like you mentioned, has brought more attention to healthcare, biotechnology, and medtech sector. So I would like to ask, what are the opportunities you pay attention to in the global healthcare, biotechnology, and medtech sector recently?
I agree that it's brought a lot of focus, a lot of exposure to the life science space. But this is just one virus, and in my view, we will solve this in 12 months, 12 to 18 months, and then it will disappear. I'm quite optimistic because there are, 177 companies. If you include all those unknowns, maybe about 200. And together with us, we have antibody approaches, T-cell approaches, and lots of money available for anybody who's making progress. So I think I'm quite confident there will be 6 or 7 approved drugs within 12 months. I think both antibodies and T-cell approaches should give good, complete immunity, leading to an eradication of this virus. And then after that, a V-shaped recovery of the world. That's my belief. Now, but once that happens, what's the next pandemic?
Sure.
So is it flu? Is it corona? We don't know. So I think there will be more money in the vaccine space, which is good. But that's a small part of all the problems that human beings face. You know, we all have aging diseases, degenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, ALS, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, cancer, heart attacks. So there are lots and lots of problems that the world has to improve their solutions for. And so we're very excited about that. But besides that, there are also a lot of other things that the world is suffering from. One of them is climate change. Another is plastic pollution. So we are invested in all of these. We have a plastic company, or an alternative to plastic, called RWDC. What they make is biodegradable plastic that feels like plastic and costs like plastic.
Oh. And
so that's very exciting. It can already make straws and lids and cups and mineral water bottles and wet tissues and diapers, cutlery, and soon you will see our brand Solon, which will be launched in many big companies, burger companies, coffee chains, etc. So we're very excited about that company. That's a Singapore and Athens, Georgia joint venture. We also have an energy company that's the greenest of all green technology. It is able to extract heat from the ground by geothermal conduction. And that's very exciting. Eventually, we should be a magnitude cheaper than all geothermal of the past. So we're very excited about that company. We have a kidney dialysis machine company called Aardvark that's based in, called AWAC. And it's based in Singapore. The entrepreneurs are all from India, and we expect to go for US FDA. We've already received breakthrough technology. It's a kidney dialysis machine that's the size of a handbag, so it's basically portable. And Aardvark has a lung inflammation drug that can help with COVID-19, people suffering from ARDS, acute respiratory disease. Then we have a drug delivery company based in London that can improve the efficacy and toxicity of therapeutics and even vaccines. So that's, again, very exciting. We have a company in Singapore called Matchmove that's trying to become a digital bank. It's called Matchmove. We have a company in Malaysia called KPI Soft. And what they do is they allow people to work from home very conveniently. They also power the My Sejahtera app in Malaysia. It's like contact tracing. So I hope that gives you a kind of flavor of all the companies that we invest in all around the world with very different technologies. The geothermal company is called EVOR, EAVOR. We also have an X-ray machine that's based in Irvine, California. It's a joint venture with Australia. And they have an X-ray machine that's 1,000 times more accurate than current X-ray tech for the same toxicity.
That's very interesting. A lot of innovation, I think. So as you talk a lot about deep tech, so what do you think of the difference in maturity of deep tech vertical between China and Southeast Asia?
I would say that the Western world is the leader currently in deep tech. The US is by far the largest deep tech innovative countries in the world, innovative country in the world. Europe is next. And then in Asia, probably China and Japan, Korea. And then a bit less so in Southeast Asia other than Singapore, because in developing countries, there's less investment in technology.
I see.
But I think in the future, China will certainly be a powerhouse going forward. It already is a leader in artificial intelligence.
Mm. How about the deep tech vertical in Southeast Asia? How do you see its current state?
Singapore, I think Singapore is far and away the leading country in Southeast Asia for deep tech. They have been pumping billions in the R&D space for the last 3 decades. And it will continue to be the leader in our view. Indonesia, of course, is the largest country in Southeast Asia. And eventually, when they put more and more in R&D, they too could be a powerhouse. But it's all about investments in R&D. The more you spend, the better you develop your talent.
Yeah.
And the more talent you can attract from all over the world.
Yeah, got it. So I think I don't have much time left. So for my last question, I would like to ask for some suggestions to entrepreneurs who are watching this webinar. So how do you advise them to grow sustainably this year and in the future?
This year is a very unusual and unique year. Having money is probably the most important thing. So I guess spend more time raising capital, be very prudent with cash. And unless you have quite clear vision of where the next dollar is going to come from, you have to slow down. But if you are clear that you are in a very hot space and money will be forthcoming, only then can you be aggressive. And yeah, it's okay to wait it out. As they say, right? Live to fight another day, but you have to live so that you can fight again. Another thing that people can do is to, I guess, reduce staff a little and focus on the part that will allow you to raise money, and not invest so much in the parts that are too long-term in returns. Because VCs right now are looking at a shorter term horizon. They want a sure bet. Because generally when you have a problem in the world, there is a flight to safety bets. So if you can reduce risks and get earlier revenues, that's what people should do.
I see. So I think we've run out of time. Thanks, Dr. Finian, for joining us and sharing your insights. I hope tonight our conversation will help startup entrepreneurs understand the market better. So thanks, Dr. Finian. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, and for our audience, please stay tuned. If you don't want to miss out on our next episode, you can sign up for our newsletter. Thanks for being here. Until next time.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.